Most people will never ever accomplish their goals simply because they don't have the right mindset. They don't have the tools to get there, and they don't have the right mindset and attitude. Because with the right mindset and attitude, you can literally accomplish anything. You've probably heard many people speak about the importance of improving your mindset and discipline and all of these things. But how do you actually do it? You do it via the mindset that you have, the thoughts that you create. And these are the things that will allow you to succeed or not. And why am I the person you should listen to when it comes to your mindset? Well, in 2023, I decided that now I'm going to stick with discipline, I'm going to stick with a strict routine, I'm going to get into the gym, I'm going to start meditating, I'm going to do all of the habits at once. I was like attacking life at this point. So I decided that this was the moment for me to change it all up, and now screw everything else. I'm just focusing on my own improvement and my ability to actually get things done, and I had a very big goals for myself. And guess what happened? I meditated 220 days in a row. I've built an extremely aesthetic physique and built a lot of muscle mass since that point. I have ran 10 kilometers in under 40 minutes. I have built an aesthetic physique, as I said earlier, but I've achieved top grades through very minimalistic studying. Like, I've got like 75% of all subjects I've got A's in, which is the highest grade that you can get in my country. I have also generated over 1 million YouTube views in 90 days with one of my history YouTube channels, and these are the things that I have actually accomplished. So the mindset that you have will allow you to become the best version of yourself and change your life forever, or it will just make you grow stagnant and just kind of like flatline and never ever grow anymore. And the importance of this is that you have to turn everything on full screen. Don't look at the comments, don't be distracted. It's just going to be like, I don't even know, but like 25 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 35 minutes maximum of your life. Because if you can't focus in on all of this, I'm sorry, but you're probably just like cooked, because you can't focus for long enough. So now I want to dive into my exact protocol and system that I utilized. I want to zoom in a little bit. So when it comes to mindset, there are lots of things that I want to cover. And the first things that you need to understand is like, why do you need to improve your mindset first of all? Like, first of all, we have the benefits of a strong why, because a strong why will allow you to grow in when you are feeling setback, when you're feeling like a failure, when you're feeling like people are not on you, when things aren't on your side and aren't going well. It will literally help you to slingshot past everybody and allow you to kind of like grow out of this rut and get better. Because I want to tell you a quick story here. In February this year, and I was actually speaking to my father. We were standing in this apartment and we were speaking a little bit back and forth about my YouTube channel and what kind of things that I could offer to my audience, how I could help them more, just because I wanted to kind of like improve my YouTube game. I said I want to get to Victor 2.0 when it comes to my YouTube game. And he kind of like explained a few things, and I said that I was almost going to quit, and I was really demotivated like a few days after, because I hadn't got any results with the recent effort. And then he just said to me, redirect your why into something like a foundational like baseline for why you're doing these things. So ask yourself, why am I even doing these things in the first place? So every single time that you have something new that you're doing, just ask yourself why. Because imagine that you're running a marathon, which is kind of similar to a YouTube game, but you're running a marathon, but you don't even know why you're running a marathon. You just saw a few people in the park who was going to run a marathon, and you were like, I want to join in, and at like kilometer like 10 or 20, when you were halfway through, you kind of like quit. You kind of like wanted to quit because it was hard, and like, why did I even run a marathon in the first place? It's kind of like running without a destination. You kind of like just aim pointless, and then you will just end up kind of like quitting everything and thinking to yourself, this is not what I want to do anymore because it's too hard. So set yourself a very strong why. A foundational why is, why am I doing this in the first place? What are the goals that I want to achieve by pursuing this path? So do that, ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why do I want to improve my mindset? Do I want to create the best life I can possibly do? So you need to have a very, very strong foundation, because it will be hard, it will be difficult, but the protocol and the process is very, very simple. And then you need to improve your discipline and your identity. I will cover discipline first. When it comes to discipline, discipline is the act and the skill of doing something that you specifically don't feel like doing. So if I don't feel like grabbing this pen right now, if I want to improve my discipline, I just grab it like this and I take it in my hand and hold it for a few seconds, kind of like roll it around. And now when I want to roll it around, I just kind of like put it away, because that's something that I want to do currently. So do you get what I'm saying at here? Some people believe that grabbing the pair of dumbbells and doing some bicep curls or training hard or running or studying is discipline. But it is not. Discipline is the specific skill of doing something that you didn't feel like doing. Because some people are just kind of like acting out of motivation when it comes to hard work and these types of things, because they've kind of like reprogrammed their mind, or they were just kind of like lucky enough to like get pleased and get a positive feedback loop when they were young about hard work, studying, and these types of things. I'm more into this category, but it's still very, very hard and very, very tempting, because I still ended up like playing video games like 6 hours per day, like scrolling, just kind of like having no real direction in my life. So I think one of the what voice crack was that? I'm really, really sorry about that. So discipline is the exact skill of pursuing something that you specifically didn't feel like doing. And you might ask, how do I actually keep myself accountable to discipline and staying on track? Because sometimes you kind of like tell yourself, now I'm going to stick to a habit tracker, kind of like this one I have on my wall up here. Why can't I move my fingers like so it's pointing? But you see the habit tracker right there? That's one thing that can keep you accountable. And how can you kind of like not like take it down and then kind of like throw it away, because like you just kind of like tell yourself, I'm not doing this anymore. You need a strong network, and you need people who've went through the same path as you. So I have went through the path that you want to take towards mastery, towards gaining a new goal, a new adventure, something new that you want to pursue. I have walked that process. So what I want you to do is go to the link in the description. If you just stick to this path and actually pursue this, you will literally make it. So when it comes to your identity, it's kind of like the perception of yourself, and how you perceive yourself is utterly important. Now you might ask why, because if you see yourself as a happy, smiling person, for example, the world around you, kind of like if I draw the world, we have a few continents like this, and like this is not realistic, but kind of like bear with me here. If you perceive yourself as a happy person, then the world will do so as well, because the perception you have of yourself will dictate how the world perceives you and how you perceive the world. So the perception of the world is kind of like even more important than like how the world is. Because if you see the world as a dark place, as a place of misery, which it can be sometimes, then it's so much more likely to actually become that way, just because you see only the negatives. There are so many things to be grateful for, there are so many things to kind of like be happy about, and how you manipulate reality into getting a goal. So for example, you want to go from A to B. How you do this is you shift your self-identity and wormhole your way through it and to get to that B point. And this is how I have accomplished basically all of my goals. For example, when it came to bench press, I was actually a little bit ill in November last year for about a month, from October to November. Then in November, I kind of like, I remember my first ever session, I literally failed 60 kilograms when my previous personal best was like, I think it was 72 kilograms at that point was my personal best, and I failed 60 kilograms, which was very, very painful. And just 90 days later, I benched 87.5 kilograms, which is, I don't even know, but I think it is around like 190 pounds, a little bit more than that, 195 pounds. I'm not even sure, but like, I literally have used this to wormhole myself through it. So what you simply need is to visualize, which is simply you play a mental movie of yourself. You play a mental movie of yourself where you kind of like, you visualize a date. So for example, first of all, you need to visualize a specific date in the future. It can be in June, it can be in July, it can be in May. Kind of like set a, kind of like a SMART goal in like 2 or 3 months from now, and you kind of like see yourself in a specific moment. So for example, you've been grinding away right now on your studies and you're finally gonna get your grades at like the 10th of June, let's say. You're gonna get your grades then, and what you simply do is you play the mental movie of the 10th of June and how great it will feel that you've actually gotten the degree that you wanted, or the grade that you wanted. For example, you got A in like 10 subjects, which will allow you to get into this college or this university, whatever. Like, you just visualize the exact moment and how it feels in detail. You go as detailed as possible, and you think to yourself, kind of like, you play the mental movie of where you want to end up, and now when you are in the place, how does it feel? Which people are around you? How is the surrounding? How's the weather? For example, a thing that I like to utilize when it comes to my own visualizations is I visualize the weather. I specifically visualize a specific like feeling of when I do accomplish my goal. So if you would get the grades that you've always wanted, how does it feel? Kind of like get a tangible feeling about that. And the cool thing about these things is that you will start to realize how kind of like the world starts to dictate itself to actually kind of like get into your like to shift in your favor and in your manner, because what will happen is that most people don't utilize this, so therefore you will actually be so much better off, just because people around you and all of the people in the universe will shift in your direction, because most people don't leverage this. And then once the person does this, their brain will think it's real, because your brain cannot distinguish between imagination and reality, because you remember the dreams that you have the same way as you remember a memory, but the dream didn't happen. But when you do this with a visualization, it's kind of like you're creating a memory for yourself in the future, and your brain thinks it's real, so the universe will dictate itself to actually make it real. And this is how you hijack your mindset. This is how you change your life. You simply change your identity of how you see yourself. And you might ask, how much should I visualize? Because if I visualize $1 billion in my bank account tomorrow, it won't end up there, even though you said it would work. The paradox here, and the simple thing that you need to keep in mind, is that you can only do this for about, I would say, like between like 10 to like 25 to 30% improvement of your current self. So for example, if you have a vice, for example, it's junk food or scrolling, instead of actually seeing yourself as completely screen-free, you're living in the woods, whatever, that can be powerful as well, but you see yourself like 10% or 30% better, so you see like, okay, now I'm scrolling for 3 hours a day. I'm just scrolling for 1 hour a day, and the other 2 hours I'm actually dedicating that to studying or getting into the gym or whatever. And then what is important to actually fulfill this is kind of like a goal and then action. And what will happen is that when you visualize, you will want to take action, because you kind of like create self-motivation for yourself, because now you know what you want, and then your mind will think to yourself, this is how I'm going to get it, because you know what you need to do in order to change your life and get to your goals. So what you simply need to do is to have a specific crystal clear goal, a B point, not just kind of like I wanna be jacked, I wanna get top grades or whatever. No, be very, very, very specific. You say, I want to get a ace in 12 subjects out of like 16 or whatever. You say that in this exact subject, I'm going to get an A, in this I'm going to get a B, I'm going to get these things and these things. Make it reasonably unreasonable, but be very, very specific, because then it will be a lot easier for you to manifest these things, because you know what you're working towards. Because if you're driving a car, for example, and you kind of like briefly know where you want to end up, for example, you want to end up in this big city, like let's say like New York or something, but you're driving along the east coast of the United States, and somebody asks you, okay, so you want to end up in New York, and you kind of like say, oh, I don't really want to use Google Maps or anything, I'm just driving, and I think I'm heading in the right direction. And perhaps you are, but you will get that there so much faster if you just kind of like use a proven step-by-step method, and then you just need to take action. And how you take action is simply you force yourself to take action in the beginning, and you shrink the task small enough so that you will do it. So for example, if you have been trying to get into the gym and you want to get into a 6 day per week like push pull leg upper lower kind of thing, but you just cannot do it, then just do one full body workout just once a week or twice a week starting off, and then you increase it, because in a few months from now you will be at the point where you wanted to like start at, but it is sometimes too difficult to actually get there. So the other thing that you need to understand is two simple terms, which is delayed gratification and immediate gratification. Immediate gratification are things that feel stimulating right now, that kind of like shoots up your happiness. What a terrible like arrow that was, but that shoots up your happiness currently, but in the long run it makes you even more miserable. So this was your happiness baseline before, but then you stimulate yourself with Netflix, and then it goes down, and then you have a new baseline, and then when you shoot up again, you just kind of like go like this, and then shoots down like this, and now you have a new baseline right here, and then you go up to the old baseline right here. This is why you feel a little bit gray and mundane once you overindulge in very, very stimulating things. But a great thing here is that every single day, not like your dopamine baseline doesn't reset every single day, but you kind of like get new dopamine units, as I like to call it. Because once you have a few more units, then it will be a lot easier. So what you need to do is kind of like get into a low frequency state, a state where you are not extremely stimulated, because once you have been productive for some time, it's very easy to stay in that state. And once you haven't been productive, once you're scrolling, once you're eating junk food, whatever, it's going to be very, very hard for you to actually take yourself out of that and get into the low frequency state. It's very easy to stay in the same frequency as you are currently, even though like you're being productive or whatever. But when it comes to shifting these stages, you need to be bored for some time for you to actually do it, when it comes to like reducing it to the low frequency state. So try to not base your life on immediate gratification if you just want to live a happy, fulfilled life with lots of like enjoyment, because in a weird way, the things that are happy and fun are not actually that happy and fun, because they reduce your overall happiness, which will make you miserable in the long run. So when it comes to delayed gratification, it's kind of like the opposite of these things. So delayed gratification or activities are things that feel a bit like non-stimulating right now, but shoot up your happiness baseline and kind of like moves like this. Not really like this, but more like this, and then it shoots up again, and then you do something even harder, and then it shoots up. You kind of like consistently improve your own like overall baseline, because if you've heard like people who are extremely productive, they usually don't do that much stimulating things. And I can even say this for myself, because I am not doing that many like stimulating things like scrolling, watching just mindless social media content. I have literally my phone, why am I pointing at my computer, but my phone and my computer on grayscale mode. Literally, whilst I'm recording this on my computer, I've grayscale mode my computer, just because I know that it kind of like releases more dopamine and more stimuli once I'm having color on, and I don't need it if I'm not just going to color grade or record. And when I do record, I just turn it on my phone, and then I just switch it back, and I've had it like this for a few months right now, or I don't really know, but perhaps like 60 days or something like that, once I've actually started to get myself into more of self-improvement type of things, and improving myself, and spreading this message overall of mindset, of discipline, of delayed gratification, of actually detoxing from these things that feel a bit like toxic from your life, and kind of like just taking a step back from the modern distractions. So now I want to touch on how to use suffering and hardship to actually grow even more and slingshot even further. First of all, you need to overload pain. In the beginning, everything feels painful. Sometimes even brushing your teeth can be painful, and I'm speaking from experience right here. In 2022, in like May or June or something like that, I remember on this particular day where I woke up at around like 10ish, I went down, I had like breakfast, I ate a sandwich which kind of with just butter and I think some cheese on and ham or whatever, and then I went up to my room. It was a complete mess, my room. like, it was so crazy. Everything, I had so many clothes. If you, like, my parents, when they're watching this, will agree with me so much on this. My room literally would look like somebody had been there and kind of like threw everything around. And now it's like, my bed is made, everything is organized. It's completely like, it's not, it is organized in a way where I actually feel comfortable now, and I don't want to do this. I'm a bit of a messy type of person, but still I have everything organized because I know that in my mind, if I don't have an organized room, I won't be organized in any other manner. Because like, if I won't be organized, how am I even going to be credible enough to speak about one of these things to my YouTube audience? So overload suffering, and what I mean by this is just kind of like do some activities that feel a little bit hard and that kind of like, that are a bit difficult, and challenges you right now for you to actually feel a bit of pain, so that in the future you can feel more pain, and then you get like susceptible to pain over time and you overload it. And how you do this is not like you just break your hand or something like that. What you simply do is you experience pain in a controlled way, and that can be, for example, going to the gym, working hard, doing something that feels a little bit like, that takes a lot of friction. And then you just need to like practice the things that you're doing. So practice utilizing pain. It's kind of like the same thing as overloading. You just need to practice in being in painful environments. So for example, what you can do is you can go out for a run that will challenge you. You can run a few sprints, do a few things that feel painful right now, but that will allow you to grow in the future. And use something called perception contrast. So imagine if you have two buckets right here, or three buckets, I mean. You have three buckets like this, and one is hot water, one is cold water, and one is room temperature water. And you stick one of your hands into the hot water, and you stick one of your hands into the cold water. And then you take both of the hands after about a minute into the room temperature water. You stick both of your hands like this. The one that you had in the hot one will feel cold, and the one you had in the cold one will feel hot. And what this simply means is perception contrast simply means that the way you perceive something is dictated through where you were before and the way your environment is set up. And the reason I made this analogy is because it works extremely well. Because if you're doing something that is very, very high stimuli, as I spoke earlier about, it's kind of like the hot water, and then you go back into something that is room temperature, it will feel cold just because you've been used to this amount of stimuli. So utilize this to change your life. And perception contrast is one of the greatest things that you can utilize. Because if you just understand this, if you do something that is painful right now, the things that are just normal and boring will feel a lot more alive. It will feel like I literally just enjoy staring out of my window because there's color right there and my screen is black and white. This is the power of these things. So just utilize these few things, and I promise you that you can make so much progress and turn your life around and turn your mindset. If you're actually serious about this, check out the community with the link in the description. It will change your life. It will help you. It will help you to take you from A to B. And this was all I have to say for today. If you're the type of person who feels like they need a little bit more help, consider the program. And I really, really do hope that you got some value out of this video, and I'll see you in the next one.